And we're live. Welcome to another edition of Fiercely Local with Marine Bank. I'm Bill Penny, and I'm joined in the studio today by Sandy Woods. Sandy, welcome.
My pleasure.
Sandy is the owner of Treasure Coast Lexus and Treasure Coast Toyota and so much more. So, Sandy, just tell a little bit about yourself and who is this guy, Sandy Woods?
Well, I'm a humble country car dealer, is what I tell everybody. By way of background, I graduated from college back in 1971 with a degree in mathematics and a minor in business administration. I was in the insurance business for 2 years right out of college, and after that I went to work for Chrysler Corporation in Denver, Colorado. Spent a 16-and-a-half-year career with Chrysler all over the country: Denver, Texas, Utah, Wyoming, Detroit, Minneapolis, Washington, D.C., and in 1989 I left corporate and opened my first dealership in Tampa, Florida. Subsequent to that, I added another 12 dealerships, and in 2005 I decided it's time to retire and moved over here to the Treasure Coast and got rid of all the other dealerships, and we have now Treasure Coast Toyota and Treasure Coast Lexus.
So your retirement plan is owning 2 car dealerships rather than 12?
Yes,
Okay.
I was getting rid of all the dealerships, and I came over here to retire. That lasted exactly 1 month, and I got back into the business. My daughter actually runs all of my businesses now, and after she graduated from college at University of Central Florida in Orlando.
Okay.
She went to New York, and I said, what am I going to do? I got this big Lexus dealership and a Toyota dealership. So I unretired myself, and 6 years later she came back to the Treasure Coast and went through all the chairs again, and now she runs both our Toyota store and our Lexus store.
That's great family story. So you have a degree in mathematics, you started in insurance. What drove you to get into the car business?
Interesting story. My senior year in college, I took a class in insurance and fell in love with insurance.
Okay.
And back then, the people, they had an adjunct professor came in to talk about insurance, and he recruited me to go to work for his company. And I'd never been on an airplane, and they offered me a flight from El Paso, Texas to Dallas, and I said, I'm in.
Okay, just as long as I get to go be on an airplane.
I get on an airplane, never been on an airplane before. Yeah. So, and I sold insurance for a couple of years, and the guy across the hall from my insurance office, he says, what are you doing selling insurance? He says, you ought to get into something. He says, my roommate from college has an employment agency in Denver. When you go see him. So just so happened I was going to a convention in Denver, so I stopped by to see the guy, and he said, oh gosh, yeah, we've got a lot of jobs for you. So I had 4 job offers, and I picked Chrysler because they were the underdogs. I always go for the underdog. Okay. And I went to work for them and spent 16 and a half years, 14 different jobs, and then I became a car dealer.
Was that in the Lee Iacocca days?
I worked direct. I ran one of his programs.
Wow.
I ran one. I took his program over in 1989. It was $30 million upside down. It was a $150 million budget program, and 18 months later, it was profitable, and that's how I became a car dealer.
Wow, what a great story. That's exciting. I know you do a lot in the community. Is there anything that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, it's interesting. We just celebrated our 14th year anniversary, and one of the biggest reason I got into a lot of the philanthropy, and my daughter handles most of that now, but this gentleman by the name of Larry Lee, I met him 14 years ago when we had our grand opening. And he came by and asked the question, why did you move from Tampa to Fort Pierce? He said, it just doesn't go together. And I said, well, because Fort Pierce to Treasure Coast is where everything is going to happen in the next couple of decades. He said, how do you know that? I said, well, one of my jobs when I was corporate, you found through urban science where population trends were going to go. And I said, they're going to dead end here on the Treasure Coast within the next 2 decades. And he thought I was crazy. So then we built the dealership, and he came back one day and he said, hey, looks like you know what you're doing. He said, I want you to help me fix my hometown. So we became fast friends and got involved in a lot of the things that he's doing because the people, most of the people that were in his hometown in the inner city. They'd never been outside of the inner city.
Wow.
And one of the stories that we both tell is that he and I were on a streetcar driving in the hood, and I told him, I was looking at all the boarded up houses and the guys sitting outside with no air conditioning and so forth, and they were destitute. And I said, boy, I said, this is going to be a lot more difficult than I thought. These people have no hope.
Wow.
So we got involved with his Restore the Village initiative, and do a lot of other things, educational things of how to do things. Because, you know, I worked at the top levels. You work for guys like Lee Iacocca,
Right.
Fred Zuckerman, and the big guys. You better know what you're doing.
Right, right.
So we have actually every other Tuesday, we have a lot of people in town that we're trying to start businesses and go into business, and how do you do this, how do you set up a company, where do you get the access to capital, and so forth and so on. So we talk about a lot of stuff like that.
Okay. Wow. Wow. That's exciting. So, what would be one of your biggest setbacks? We all have our successes, and then there's always a setback. What did you learn from that?
Now, that's a great question. When I first got out, now I've been a car dealer now, it'll be 33 years next month. When I left corporate, I was one of the on the high potential list, and I got out and I thought I knew what I was doing. Didn't have a clue. I got in business.
Isn't that with youth? Isn't that what? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
You think that everything's going
right.
to. I got out of the corporate world at the exact wrong time, but actually it was the right time, because it tempered my enthusiasm, because I thought it was going to be real easy. Getting into business and learning about corporations and banking and finance and accounting and all the rest of the stuff. My first couple of years, 25 months to be exact, I lost $504,000. And that humbled me.
Yes.
That was the best education that I ever got. It was tough. I almost went out of business. And then once I figured it out, my dad gave me the secret. He said, son, you have to work hard and you have to have a plan. And that's what I did. He told me the darkest hours just before dawn, and that was what turned me around.
Wow. Wow. What a story. What a story. So let's flip that around. What are some of your proudest moments of your achievements?
Well, the proudest moment is probably my daughter getting into the business and firing me.
Oh.
She came in and we put her through the NADA, National Automobile Dealers Association dealer program, where they give you all aspects of the business. And that was 18 months. And then she came in and I told her, I said, look, I want you to do two things. One is I want you to open every piece of mail. And two, I want you to sign every check, so you know exactly what's going on. So she did that for about 6 months. And then I gave her the Toyota store. She fired all the people that I had, including me. And then the business just took off. You know, with the social media and all this, you have to be on top of all this stuff, and I'm not. She is.
Okay, that's good.
And so after she did that, I gave her the Lexus store, and it took off. So I said, hey, I like this a lot. That's probably my proudest moment.
Okay. So how does this conversation go? You're sitting in an office with your daughter, and she fires you.
Well, it actually was a relief. Because there's a million different things that go on all the time, but she brought a completely different, fresh approach to personnel. I handle all the finance. I have two people that report to me. It's her and my chief financial officer. Everybody else reports through them. So I'm at 10,000 feet, and we're expanding outside of the car business now. We're into real estate pretty heavy, and we're getting ready to do some hospitality type things, houses, apartments, townhouses, and stuff like that. So she handles the automotive, and I'm handling all the rest of it. And as my other kids get involved in it, and my grandson, who's going to college, is going to University of Portland, he's the next one. She's going to be training him.
So you have the opportunity to be fired by more than one of your kids
and
your grandkids.
Yes.
Is that where we're going with this?
Well, yes. That's the legacy. That's the legacy program.
The legacy.
Yeah, well, you know, and I got this from my buddy Larry Lee. We always talk about, well, what are we going to do with our kids? You know, and his wife, or his daughter is pregnant now with his first grandchild, who he is very proud of. So I'm setting it up that everything that we accomplish, it's going to go to the next generation.
That's great.
So Larry says that I'm going to rule from the grave, and that's kind of the way it's going to go.
Okay, that's awesome. What advice would you have to somebody that wants to either start a business, build their business, and then get involved in the community to make a difference?
Boy, there's a lot of things. If you're going to, well, first of all, you have to have commitment.
Mm-hmm.
My old boss at Chrysler used to say, you got to love what you're doing. And if you don't like it, my dad used to always tell me the same thing. He said, son, find something that you enjoy doing. You'll never work another day in your life. It's not a job at that point. Then you have to get great advice. You need a great attorney, you need a great chief financial officer, and you need a great banker, because typically when you get out and go into business, you don't have any money. And I almost went broke. I know what it's like going in undercapitalized, but I figured it out. So you're going to need a support staff and a passion for what you do.
Okay. Commitment and passion.
Yep.
What about somebody that wants to get involved in the community to make a difference?
Well, you have to, again, find what you're passionate about. You have to have that opportunity. In Fort Pierce and in Stewart, we do a lot of things in Stewart. My dog is into the building the houses and painting the houses and so forth and so on. But a lot of it is financial. We support a lot of opportunities in the city. But mine is primarily education.
Okay.
Because I started with nothing. I started in the business with $139,000 and turned it into everything that we have now.
Nice.
So if you know how to do it, educate yourself. And, I did it at the highest levels when I ran a $150 million program,
Right.
so I knew how to do it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Sandy, anything else you'd like to tell our audience?
Well, I moved to the Treasure Coast because this is where I wanted to retire.
Okay.
Left Tampa, it was growing too big. It was an emerging growth opportunity. But the next emerging growth opportunity in the state of Florida is the Treasure Coast.
Well said. We agree. We agree. So, Sandy, thank you for everything you do in our community. Thank you for joining us today. And thank you for tuning into this edition of Fiercely Local. Until next time.